Rumors were rampant at that time, and they didn't know what would happen to them. And because of all the rumors that were flying around, the fathers being taken in. And so my mother, first thing she did was burn all the photographs that she received from Japan, pictures of her mother and family, and letters that she had received from her mother. She burned everything.
Why would she do that?
Well, because the government might feel that she was patriotic to Japan, or because of the rumors of the fathers being taken in. And I guess at the time they felt that the Japanese on the West Coast might sabotage, do harm. Of course, there was no evidence before, during, or after the war that any sabotage was done by the Japanese or the Japanese Americans. The evacuation occurred in May. That's when we had to leave. So they had to abandon their crop. They had to sell what they could at a loss. And of course, right after Pearl Harbor, the bank accounts were frozen, and my father had most of his money in Yokohama Specie Bank. And after the war, when he withdrew his money, the exchange was worthless. Selling, what we couldn't store, as I said, we either had to sell it, what we could get for what we had, or abandon it, or give it away. And I recall my father receiving only $5 for his car.
I'm sorry.
I recall my father receiving only $5 for his car. He just took what he could get for what we had. So as with most families, all these Japanese suffered a great big loss at the time. Well, in Clarksburg, there was one family that was very helpful to us. And because she was sympathetic to the Japanese, everybody else in the Clarksburg community, the Caucasians that is, labeled her a communist, but she didn't care. She helped us anyway.
Do you recall her name?
Yes, Mrs. O'Connor. No, not O'Connor, Mrs. Connors, Connors.
What happened to Mrs. Connors?
She was a school teacher at the time. And of course she has passed on.
What kinds of things did she do to help the Japanese community?
Well, she supported us. She spoke up for us. She didn't think it was right that, they were interning us when we hadn't done anything. And she would do anything that she could to help us to evacuate. And she was the only one in that community. Kibes were born in America but educated in Japan.
So American citizens.
But they were American citizens. Probably a lot of them held dual citizenships.
Okay. Any other comments about Tule Lake before we move on?
Any other comments? No, I can't think of any, except that I would say that, our Constitution that guarantees equal rights to all the people without regard to race or color was violated. And so it's important that the Constitution is upheld. I always tell the students that even though Chief Justice Charles Evans Hughes says that the Constitution is only a piece of paper, but to make it work, it's up to all of us to keep it alive. And how do you do that? is if we see anyone's civil rights being violated, we need to speak out to preserve the Constitution, because that's the most important document that we have in America. You know, we live in the greatest country in the world, the greatest free country in the world, and it's our responsibility to make it even better. We left before 1946. In fact, we left in September of 45. A representative from a canning company in Utah came to recruit us, you know, and this representative promised us housing and good wages, good work. But when we went to Utah, it was a Varney Canning Company, we were peeling tomatoes and working with German war prisoners at the time. It was 10 cents a bucket, and to earn 10 cents a bucket was really hard work. I don't know how much the Germans were paid, but we were paid only 10 cents a bucket. And to me, filling that bucket full of peeled tomatoes took like all day, because an inspector would go around and round and, you know, dig into your bucket to see if she could find some skin that was left. And by the time she got through with your bucket, it was just juice, and so, you know, my bucket didn't pass. It was, well, how would you say it, useless. Well, I think it's important for the people to know about internment, and this display, or what's shown at the Golden State Museum tells the story about what happened to the Japanese Americans and the Japanese residents that were here. In other words, the students should know what had happened, so that it would not happen again to any other group of people. It almost did after 9/11. Arabs and Muslims were targeted, and we just cannot let that happen.